All right, everybody, good afternoon. We've got yet another outgoing Seahawks free agent to take a look at here. Michael Jackson, another guy who is not necessarily high profile, not a guy who is going to be sorely missed if he is let go, but also a player of some level of consequence. There is something here. Michael Jackson has played on and off for the Seahawks for the last few years. He played a little bit at the end of 2021, and he's been a relatively consistent part of the team since then. Did see a lot of benching in the start of 2023, but by the end of the year, he was at the very least, part-time player because of some of the things going on with Woolen. So we've seen a decent amount of Jackson the last couple years, and it's been decent. Nothing stand out, nothing special. He's not good enough to be a starting cornerback in this league, really, but he is good enough to be depth. He's good enough to be a backup, good enough to come in when he's needed, and good enough to be an emergency option. So there's going to be something out there for him. Now, real quick, before we get into the weeds here, Spotrac says that Mike Jackson is a restricted free agent this upcoming season. I don't think he is. I am pretty sure that he was restricted last year, so I don't think he's going to be restricted this year. Could be wrong. There could be something weird going on here because he's bounced around the league so much. But I'm pretty sure he's not restricted this year, and this is just a error by Spotrac. So if he is restricted, then it's pretty easy to keep him if you want to. You just put right of first refusal, give him a couple $1,000,000, and you're probably good to go. But if you actually have to negotiate something, let's try to understand that. So Jackson, 27 years old now, so basically in his physical prime. You take a look at his numbers for whatever that's worth. Obviously, he did a lot more in 2022 because he started the whole season, but 2023, he actually did a fairly decent amount. 5 passes defensed in 4 starts, 34 tackles, 2 for loss. One of the reasons why we brought him in at the end of the season was that he's a pretty good tackler, whereas Woolen was not tackling. So that's definitely part of the equation here. And PFF, I mean, they thought he played really good. They liked his coverage. They liked his tackling. They were high on Mike Jackson in general in 2023. So there might be a little more money here for Mike Jackson than you were expecting. I don't think this is going to be some Vetmin or Vetmin plus situation. I think that you are looking at a player who there won't be a ton of money, but there will be some money. So I went through the list of cornerbacks here. Let me bump it up a little bit here. Scroll up. Obviously, we're going right past this group of players here. Some of these guys are on rookie deals. It doesn't mean anything. Some of these guys are clearly better and more valuable than Michael Jackson is right now. So I'm not really looking at these guys. I'm going to keep going. First guy I want to look at real quick here is Emmanuel Moseley. And 1 year, $6 million with Detroit last offseason. I mean, honestly, if you look at it, Emmanuel Moseley is a guy who's played 1 full season in his career. It was 2019. Since then, 12 games, 11 games, 5 games. Nothing too stand out here. He's never been some massive ball hawk. He's never been some elite run defending cornerback. There's nothing here that makes you go, wow, that guy's really, really good at football. It's just kind of like, it's okay. It's decent. But I'm not seeing anything here that is like stand out head and shoulders above Mike Jackson. And you go to 2022 on PFF, I mean, they liked him. It was good. But it's a small sample size. You go back to 2021, they liked him then too. But again, you're dealing with kind of smaller sample sizes, and you're dealing with players that get injured a lot here with Moseley. So we're not there yet, but we might be closer than you think, right? We might be closer than you were expecting in that 1 year, $6 million range. So I'm going to keep going down here. The next guy I want to stop on is Rock Yassin. 1 year, $4 million with the Ravens. What did he do in 2022 to earn that money? Played for the Raiders. Played in 9 starts, 11 games. No interceptions, 45 tackles. PFF will tell you that he played solidly, nothing remarkable, but fine. And that gets him 1 year, $4 million. Now, Rock Ya-Sin was a second-round pick. Mike Jackson was not. He was a fifth-round pick. So there's a little bit of pedigree there. But you're still kind of looking at somebody who is not that far off, right? Like, if Rock Ya-Sin is getting $4 million, Mike Jackson, based on what we've seen, because remember, Mike Jackson started every game 2 years ago, and he was okay. So we're probably getting closer, man. We're getting real close. If I keep going down the list here, next guy, Jalen Mills. Last offseason, 1 year, 3 3/4. What did he do in 2022? Played 10 games, 2 picks, 31 tackles. Maybe a little more prolific than a guy like a Mike Jackson was, but not radically so, right? I mean, PFF is very, very down on him. So you put it all together, and we got there quicker than you thought, didn't we? Another name I want to look at here would be Shaq Griffin, our old friend, who signed with the Houston Texans and then went to the Carolina Panthers after leaving the Jaguars. 1 year, 3.5. What did Shaq Griffin do in 2022 to earn 1 year, 3.5? I mean, we are talking about a former Pro Bowler here, but he played 5 games and didn't really do much of anything. 2021, he was, decent, okay, but we're talking about a player who didn't have a single interception in the last 2 years of his career. Go to PFF 2022, they think he was just whatever. They think he was passable. 2021, they liked him. They thought he was a good player. But you're still looking at somebody who was kind of, I mean, we're almost getting to the point where, like, he's going to be out of the league in a second here. And he got $3.5 million. So, yeah, if Shaq Griffin gets $3.5 million coming off a 2022 where he barely played and didn't play that well, we might be there. And just to further the point home, you go down here to Brandon Facyson, I guess. Brandon Facyson, never heard that name pronounced before. Last offseason gets 2 years, 6.5, but 3.25 million. Brandon Facyson, let me see if there's a pronunciation here. Facin, okay, that is much different than I was thinking. Facin, that's way easier. But Facin started 4 games, 28 tackles. The year before that, started 9 games, made a lot of plays on the ball, I guess. But previous year was just kind of a part-time player, kind of like Mike Jackson was this year. So, yeah, PFF, not a fan of what he did. You go back to the previous year, even worse. So, yeah, we've gone too far, I think. We got to go back up a little bit, not a lot. And don't get me wrong, players like Mike Jackson can slip through the cracks because they're not standout players. They could just end up taking like $2 million because that's all there is. But I'm looking at some of these players. I'm looking at some of the money they got, and I'm looking at Mike Jackson to compare. And I'm also keeping in mind the fact that he's a good tackler, which McDonald is going to value more than the average coach. I think there's some money out there for him, and I don't know if we should walk away from that just because we like our cornerback room. This guy might be an important insurance policy against Woolen not being a better tackler. So I'm going to say Mike Jackson can go out there and get like 1 year, $3.5 million. Something like that. Maybe up to 4, but it's going to be somewhere in there. Would I be willing to do that? I'm not opposed to it. I think he might have a role to play, and we need an insurance policy in case Woolen goes bad. So 1 year, I'll say $4 million. I'll do it. All right, let me know what you guys think. Kind of a weird one here, but I think there's going to be a little bit of money here for Mike Jackson. See you guys later. Go Hawks.